That is not good enough. Give it a bounce, Cookie. We need to sort that, don't we? So if you've been following this series, you'll know that Cookie bought his car a couple of weeks ago and we're just basically trying to get it back on the road and recommission it. So in the last video we did the head gasket. In today's video we're going to lower it, we're going to change the wheels, we're going to put some new CV boots on it and wheel bearings and just mechanically get it sound and make it look better.
Right guys, so first we're going to remove the wheel. No, I'm joking, don't turn up.
So let's get these. So let's get the wheel off, get the shock off. And we've got some lovely, eBay special coilovers. Now I know these aren't fantastic, but they are okay. It'll do the job. It's going to make it a bit lower. It's going to make it look cooler, and that's what we really care about. So let's get fitted. So guys, we need to do CV boots. So first off, I'm just going to whip this CV drive shaft out. Now I imagine this has probably never been apart before looking at the car. So it could be fun. Could come straight apart, we'll see. $30mm nut. Look at that. Not seized at all. Yeah, so unbolt that, and then you need to either take the bottom portion off or the strut to get the shaft out. Now we're taking the strut off because we're replacing it. So we wiggle the shaft out a little bit, then pull it into lock and unbolt the brake caliper. This is held on with two 10mm Allen bolts. Caliper's coming off as well. Doing the wheel bearing. So hit this with the hammer, this helps get the retaining screw out, it stretches the threads. Then I unbolt the track rod end and knock that out. Is that knackered? It's amazing it's not actually leaking yet. But yeah, cracked nearly all the way around. So I cut off the boot clip, which gives me access to the CV joint. Well, hey. Yeah, to get these off, you need to expand this little circlip here, which is quite difficult to do like this, but it's easier to do on a shaft. And that'll pull off. The gator pulls off, and that's it. Put a new one on, put clips on, clean this out, put some new grease in, and we're away. My assistant's prepared this for me, so this should hopefully fit. And it does. So, let's put this on, slide it back on. Fill it with grease, like that. I'll put some in here as well. What I tend to do is put it through the middle, like that, and then as it squeezes the shaft through, it kind of pushes it all out through the bearings. As this hasn't split, the grease is in good condition inside, no water in there. If it had split and was full of water and dirt and stuff, I'd recommend taking it apart and cleaning it, but this is good. And then just knock it on with using a copper hammer, but you can use a normal hammer and a bit of wood. Like so. And put the clips on. So you can get proper CV boot clip pliers, however I find these old Nipex ones work really well, and what's the point of spending money if you don't need to? So I always put the clips on in opposite orders just to make sure that there's no balance issues. And there we go guys. Double clipped, all done, that's ready for the hub to go back on. Next job's to remove the original strut. Now obviously we've already unbolted the bottom bit, so it's just the two M8 nuts on the top which are 13mm and it slides out. So it's the next day, I've just taken the strut off and now we're going to basically take the strut top off it and put it on the new coilovers. So that needs to go into the spring compressor. We're in a bit of a mess, we had a bit of a late night last night. Building a dream, you know. So now that is the strut and the spring compressor. You've got to make sure it's located nicely. Oh, hey. Then we need a 19, 17, 21, 19. So the shaft of the shot was spinning and it wasn't playing ball. We ended up using an Allen key on the impact gun and a 90mm swan neck spanner to basically hold the shock with the impact gun and turn the spanner. But I did it the other way around by turning the shock, holding the nut still. So now that's undone, I can pull the strut top off and pull the shock absorber out. Now the new coilovers do not come with any kind of strut top, so basically they're just a straight swap, pull it in. You do have to use the new nut because the threads are different, but it's basically exactly the same process as before. Tying it up, I do this by hand because I don't want to damage anything, and then I just wind the coil up so the spring's relatively tight. I don't want it to be too tight because I want it to be low. Right, so now the hub's off, we're going to do the wheel bearing. Now we're going to do it the unprofessional way, shall we say. So first off, we haven't got a press, so we're going to use tools like this and a hammer and big things like that to help us. Right, so what we're going to do, going to give it a couple of good blows. Like that. You notice if you do it nicely hard, you will not burn any of the eggs up, it will come straight out. You hit it like a little girl. No, I shouldn't say that, should I? We'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of all of that. But yeah, hit it hard, it will come out. If you don't hit it very hard, you'll rip the end over, and we'll have big problems. So now the hub's out, remove the circlets from both sides, and these can be a little bit tight, they can rust in. So you want some decent circuit pliers like these Nipex ones, and you might want to tap them a little bit with a hammer and chisel as well. Then it's just a case of knocking it all through with a big drift like I am doing. Then the new one can go in and it can slowly be tightened up in the vise. Make sure you apply even pressure, just wind it in slowly. And you might just need to use the old bearing just to get it in that last little bit. Then you can put the circlets back in. Once the clips are in, I do tend to just knock them in with a little punch and a hammer just to make sure they're seated all the way. And I also make sure the bearing still moves freely. In this case, going back to the hub flange, the inner of the old bearing still stuck on it, so I use a hammer and chisel to knock it off slowly. Just being really careful not to damage the hub flange. You can, if you're struggling, cut it with a grinder, but I didn't really need to. And then I just clean everything up with a little file because there is a little bit of a burr where I've hit it. Nothing serious. When I go over it with a bit of Abranet cloth, and then it's now the case of knocking that into the new bearing. So when you do this, you need to use something like a socket, so you're pushing on the inner of the bearing, not the outer, otherwise you'll damage the bearing. Again, make sure it's nice and level, nice and square, and tap it down slowly. And then refit the hub carrier to the shaft and the shock absorber, and tighten everything back up. So again, a 30mm nut on the drive shaft, got a split pin to lock it off, got a couple of 19mm bolts which hold the strut on, you've got a 13mm bolt that holds the lower arm on, you've got a 17mm bolt that holds the track rod end on, and then the two 10mm Allen keys hold the brake on. Really simple. And then while we're at it, just to clean everything up, we do clean the brakes up. So we give them an EC primer, give it a coat of gloss black or two, using a heat gun between each coat, and then put the wheels back on. Don't that look so much better? Right, now we're on to the back. So we're going to do the rear wheel bearings, and we're also going to lower the back, obviously, and change the wheels. It's up to you, mate. Right, so we just need to whip the drum off to get the bearings out on these. So you knock the end cap off. Like so. And I think it's a 24mm spanner. Or socket, shall I say. Thanks, mate. Pull the split pin out. Now these aren't designed to be tight. You're meant to nip them up and just back them off slightly. It's meant to have a little bit of playing. That's why I could undo it with my fingers. It's not actually faulty. The washer. And got the outer bearing. As you can see, it's just there. Hey, and the inner bearing is in the drum. Shoes, again, in excellent condition. Handbrake cables look fairly good, fairly new. Right, so turn the drum upside down. There's a little seal here, which pops off. There, we've got it, mate. Hey, so that's the seal. Bearing comes out. Then we need a drift. So that's the outer bearing race. The inner bearing is tapped in with a hammer and a punch. Take a little lip on the inside, which allows you to knock these out. And that is the inner bearing race. Other side inner, slightly bigger. And it's as simple as that, guys. You literally knock them out, knock the new ones in. So you can put the new ones in with the old bearings, or you can get a special tool that knocks them in, which I have. Knock the new one in. And put it home like that. Simple as that, guys. Pack the new bearing with grease. A bit of lithium grease. Put plenty on. Plenty in here. Don't be shy. New seal. That's one side done. Spin it over. Okay. Other side bearing. Plenty of grease. That's it. Simple as that. Right. And you literally just slide this back on. Washer can only go in one place because it's got a slot. Put the nut on. So you tighten them all the way up. Tap it with a hammer. A bit more. And you just back it off. I think it's about half a turn. That's it. New split pin. And put the cap back on. Anyone can do that. Really simple. Perfect. Obviously, you can also adjust the shoes up with a little screwdriver. Tighten them up. But not bad, so we're going to leave them like that. So finally, the last job to do is lower the back end, and then this video is done. So literally one bolt in the shock at the bottom, one nut at the top, springs fall out, you put the new ones in. We'll show you how to do it now. Right, so you unbolt both lower shocks, 17mm headed bolt in both, and the springs should just pull out. Just watch your brake hoses because you can stretch them a little bit. Right, so to make it easier to put the springs in, because we haven't got a transmission stand or anything, put the wheels on now, we drop it all the way down. Careful to put the springs in as we drop it down, and then we can go all the way down, take the shocks out, put the shocks back in on the floor. Springs are going to hold themselves in place then. So we fit the 15-inch Cavalier Cesaro wheels, and these are quite a rare wheel, and they do suit the car. So put them on, bolt them up. Cookie puts the springs in as I lower it down slowly to make sure they're seated. Then we unbolt the rear shock mounts and slide the shock absorbers out and fit the new ones in. And it's just a case of bolting them back up. Really simple. So there we go, guys. We're filthy, but the car is now lowered. We've done the head gasket, we've done all the wheel bearings, given the brakes a bit of an overhaul, just cleaned them up quickly. New fuel lines for the rubber bits. And we're about 500 quid in, and it's a lovely little car. Obviously, it still needs some paintwork doing, but that's a job for another day. For now, we can use the car. We're going to get the tyres changed at some point, probably change the wheel colour. But yeah, it's usable again. It's recommissioned. We're happy, aren't we? Brilliant. Right, if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more. Bye bye.